Welcome back, history buffs. I'm Hari, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you joining us for another journey into the ancient past.
Hi everyone, I'm Kimmy. Today we're dialing the time machine way, way back. We're talking about a period long before the iconic Great Pyramids of Giza were even a blueprint in the sand. We are heading to the Second Dynasty of Egypt to uncover the life of Pharaoh Nynetjer.
Nynetjer, also known in some historical records as Nynetjer and Banetjer. He was the third pharaoh of the Second Dynasty during Egypt's early dynastic period. We're talking somewhere between the late 29th and the early 27th century BC. This is the era right before the Old Kingdom, when the very foundations of the Egyptian state were being carved into history.
And what an incredibly long reign it was. While exact dates in early Egypt are famously hazy, Egyptologists believe his rule lasted anywhere from 35 to 49 years. The general consensus leans towards a solid 40-year reign, which is a massive chunk of time for the ancient world.
It really is. Because of that long rule, Nynetjer is archaeologically the best attested king of the early Second Dynasty. His name is found practically everywhere, on numerous stone vessels, clay ceilings, and major king lists from the Old Kingdom all the way down to the later Ramesside and Ptolemaic periods.
Most experts agree he succeeded Pharaoh Nynetjer. We know this thanks to an amazing artifact, the statue of a priest named Hetep-Adif. This statue, found in Memphis and made of speckled red granite, is actually one of the earliest examples of private Egyptian sculpture.
Hetep-Adif was a busy guy. He served as the priest for the mortuary cults of the first three kings of the dynasty. And inscribed right there on his right shoulder, in seemingly chronological order, are the royal symbols, or sireks, of Hotep-Sekemwy, Reneb, and then Nynetjer. It's like an ancient stone-carved org chart.
That's exactly what it is. And further backing this up is the famous Palermo stone. It's a fragment of the Old Kingdom royal annals, likely compiled during the 5th dynasty. Toby Wilkinson, a prominent Egyptologist, notes that the Palermo stone is incredibly reliable for Nynetjer's reign, preserving his actual name rather than the garbled variants found in later lists.
Interestingly, the Palermo stone also gives him an additional name, Ren-Nebu, meaning golden offspring or golden calf. Some experts think this might be an early forerunner to the golden Horus name that became standard in the royal titles by the 3rd dynasty. Now, about that reign duration. The Palermo stone fragments record his reign up to his 21st year, tracking Nile flood levels and standard rituals. But other sources go wild with the numbers. The Turin Canon, written under Ramses II, claims Nynetjer ruled for 96 years. Modern Egyptologists universally reject that, of course.
Yeah, 96 years in the 28th century BC would be nothing short of miraculous. But a reign of around 47 years, as suggested by the Greek historian Manetho, who called him Binothris, aligns pretty well with the archaeological evidence. For instance, we have a seated statuette of Nynetjer showing him wearing the tight-fitting vestment of the Sed festival.
Right, and the Sed festival was a major royal jubilee meant to rejuvenate the pharaoh, but it was typically only celebrated after a king had been on the throne for 30 years. Oh, and fun fact, that statuette is actually the earliest known representation in the round of a well-identified Egyptian king.
During those 40-plus years, he accomplished a lot. The Palermo stone notes regular religious festivals, like the feasts of the god Sokar every 6 years, the running of the Apis bull, and the biennial following of Horus. That last one is fascinating because it was essentially a royal road trip for taxation.
The ultimate tax collection tour. The king and his court would travel throughout Egypt to conduct a census of gold and land and collect commodities. This shows a massive leap in state administration. Under Nynetjer, the bureaucracy grew significantly. In fact, ink inscriptions from his reign provide the earliest evidence of Egypt being divided into nomes, which was a regional management system.
He even reorganized the treasury. The administration had to ensure the continuing existence of kingship, which included providing for the king's life after death. They needed enormous quantities of wine, food, and stoneware, so some sources suggest Nynetjer established novel agricultural estates, including one potentially dedicated to producing natron, a salt widely used for curing food and cleaning, rather than solely for mummification.
His reign also saw fascinating religious developments. There's a record of the foundation of a building or institution called Shem Ra, which translates to the going of Ra, or the sun precedes. Egyptologists see this as the period when Egyptians really started to view their ruler as the offspring of the sun deity.
There's also a highly unusual rock inscription near Abu Handal in Lower Nubia. It shows Nynetjer's Serek, the rectangular symbol enclosing his name, but instead of the traditional Horus falcon sitting on top, it just has the sign for God. This absence of Horus is a huge clue pointing to brewing religious and political disturbances.
Hold that thought on the disturbances, because before we get to the chaos, we have to talk about his tomb. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Discovered in 1938 by Salim Hassan at North Saqqara, it's now known as Gallery Tomb B. Nynetjer had a massive subterranean maze dug out of the bedrock.
Maze is the perfect word. It's a labyrinth of over 150 rooms spreading across an area of roughly 250 by 160 feet. Archaeologists believe it was actually designed to be a model city or a replica of the royal palace, complete with dummy houses, small streets, and dummy magazines. Some rooms were so narrow they weren't functional, yet they had ceilings painted with stars.
And the provisions! Even though it was disturbed in antiquity, excavators found one room with 560 jars of wine, some still covered in thick plant fiber nets. Another room had 420 deliberately broken wine jars from a burial ceremony, plus jars of beer and jujube fruits. They even found stone tools with residues of a reddish-brown liquid.
Those tools barely had any wear on them, suggesting they were used specifically for a ritual feast or animal slaughter during the king's burial. The sheer scale is staggering. But tragically, his above-ground monuments didn't survive. Later pharaohs like Djoser and Unis literally leveled the area and built their own complexes right on top of his galleries.
It's wild to think that workers building later pyramids accidentally crashed right into Nynetjer's subterranean maze. Over the centuries, the tomb was reused again and again. New kingdom burial shafts broke through, and by the late period, it was stuffed with mummies, coffins, and statues of divinities. There was even a 6th century Christian monastery built nearby after the area fell into disuse.
Now, let's get back to those political disturbances you hinted at earlier. The events at the end of Nynetjer's reign are shrouded in mystery, but almost all evidence points to a massive breakdown of the Egyptian state. After his death, the country seems to have split into two realms, Upper and Lower Egypt.
There are three main theories for why this happened. The first is a political and religious conflict. Power and royal interest were migrating north toward Memphis, which might have sparked an Upper Egyptian rebellion. This theory is supported by later kings like Seth-Peribsen, who actually replaced the Horus falcon on his Serek with the god Set, an Upper Egyptian deity.
The second theory is that the state administration simply became too complex and bloated. Some scholars suggest Nynetjer intentionally split the kingdom between two successors, perhaps his sons, hoping two rulers could manage the bureaucracy better than one. This might explain the initially peaceful joint mortuary cults of later kings.
The third theory is an economic collapse. Egyptologists like Barbara Bell propose that a catastrophic long-lasting drought or famine hit Egypt, forcing Nynetjer to divide the realm to better manage food distribution. Though it's worth noting some experts reject this, arguing Nile flood records from the Palermo stone were actually at normal levels.
Whatever the cause, the succession lists are a complete mess after his reign. We see shadowy figures like Wagenes and Senege. Then the king list completely diverge. It wasn't until the end of the Second Dynasty that a pharaoh named Khasekhemwy finally managed to reunite the warring halves of the country.
There's one more really fascinating detail about his reign from the Greek historian Manetho. He wrote that during Nynetjer's time, it was decided that women might hold the kingly office. Walter Bryan Emery suggests this could have been a retroactive nod to First Dynasty queens like Merit Neith, but it's an incredible legal or cultural shift to have recorded.
Absolutely. From creating regional nomes, expanding the treasury, building a subterranean city of the dead, to possibly dealing with a fractured kingdom, Nynetjer's 4 decades on the throne fundamentally shaped the trajectory of ancient Egypt.
He truly was a bridge between the earliest days of unification and the grand pyramid builders of the Old Kingdom. That wraps up our deep dive into the Labyrinth King of the Second Dynasty. Thank you all for joining us on this historical journey.
We hope you enjoyed the episode. Take care, everyone, and keep exploring the past. Goodbye for now.
This episode is based on the Wikipedia article Nynetjer, which is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. This podcast was crafted using artificial intelligence.